The first thing he noticed wasn't the silence. It was the way her hand trembled as she reached for the door. The diner was nearly empty. That slow hour between lunch and dinner when the coffee tasted burnt and the world seemed to move in half-speed. Daniel sat alone in the corner booth, a plate of fries and a half-eaten burger in front of him, pretending to scroll through emails he didn't care about. He came here every Thursday after visiting the cemetery across town. It was easier to sit among strangers than go home to a house that still echoed with memories. She had chosen the booth by the window. Her clothes were clean but worn thin at the elbows. The little girl beside her couldn't have been more than 5. Tangled curls, big brown eyes, shoes a size too small. They hadn't ordered anything. Daniel noticed that right away. The waitress had brought them 2 glasses of water and a polite smile that didn't quite hide her suspicion. The woman nodded gratefully, whispering something to her daughter. The girl sat unusually still, hands folded in her lap. And then Daniel saw it. The child wasn't staring at the window. She was staring at his plate. Not boldly, not rudely, just quietly. The way a child watches something she's already decided she can't have. Her eyes followed his hand each time he lifted a fry. Daniel felt the familiar ache in his chest, the one that had lived there since the night his wife passed away and left him to raise their daughter alone. He remembered hospital waiting rooms, remembered pretending everything was fine when it wasn't, remembered his own little girl once asking if they could share fries to save money. The woman stood abruptly. "Come on, Lily," she whispered, forcing brightness into her voice. "We should go." She tried to leave quietly, but he saw her little girl staring at his plate. Daniel called gently. She froze. There it was, that flicker of fear, embarrassment, pride battling survival. "Yes?" she asked, guarded. "I ordered too much," he said, glancing down at his plate. "Would you help me finish this?" Her lips parted slightly. "Oh, we couldn't." "It'd be a shame to waste it," he added, smiling at Lily. "And I can't eat another bite." Lily looked up at her mother, hope lighting her face like sunrise breaking through clouds. The silence stretched. Then the mother nodded once. "Slow. Careful. If you're sure." Daniel slid into the opposite side of his booth to make space. Lily climbed in, trying so hard to look polite and not desperate that it broke his heart. She picked up one fry, then another, and then she smiled. It wasn't just hunger. It was relief. Daniel didn't know her story yet, didn't know why they were there without ordering, didn't know what storms had pushed them into this quiet corner of the world. He only knew this. Sometimes the smallest invitation could feel like rescue. And as Lily took her first real bite, he realized this wasn't about fries at all. It was about dignity. And he wasn't about to let them walk out hungry. By the time Lily finished her 3rd fry, the tension in the booth had softened. Her mother introduced herself as Marissa. She spoke carefully, like someone used to choosing words that wouldn't invite judgment. Daniel learned they'd just arrived in town 2 days ago. No car, no family nearby. A shelter had given them a list of places where they could sit without being bothered. This diner was one of them. "I'm looking for work," Marissa said quietly. "Anything, really. I was a receptionist back in Ohio." Daniel nodded. "What brought you here?" She hesitated. Sometimes staying is harder than leaving. He didn't press. Lily wiped ketchup from her fingers and gave him a shy grin. "Mom says we're on an adventure." Marissa smiled faintly. "I try to make it sound exciting." Daniel felt something shift inside him. His daughter, Emma, was at soccer practice right now. Safe. Federation loved. He thought about the thin line that separated security from struggle. One illness, one layoff, one wrong turn. The waitress approached cautiously. Daniel ordered another burger, another basket of fries, and 2 grilled cheese sandwiches for the table. Marissa started to protest again. "Please," he said softly. "My daughter would never forgive me if she knew I didn't share." That did it. While they waited for the food, Lily told him about her favorite color, purple, and How she wanted to be a veterinarian. She spoke with the serious confidence only children possess. Daniel laughed for the first time in weeks. When the plates arrived, Lily's eyes widened. Marissa blinked rapidly, fighting tears she didn't want to shed in public. Halfway through the meal, Daniel's phone buzzed. A reminder notification. Parent-teacher conference tomorrow. Life moving forward. He looked at Marissa again. Do you have somewhere to stay tonight? She shook her head once. The shelter was full. The words hung heavy between them. Daniel's pulse quickened. This was the moment where kindness either stopped at a meal or stretched further. He thought of Emma. Thought of the empty guest room. Thought of the fear he'd seen in Marissa's eyes when he first spoke to her. He made a decision before doubt could catch up. I have a spare room, he said carefully. It's not fancy, but it's safe. Just for tonight. No pressure. Marissa stared at him. People don't offer things like that, her expression said. Why would you do that? She whispered. Daniel swallowed. Because once, when my wife was in the hospital, a stranger paid for my dinner and told me not to lose hope. I never even learned his name. He met her gaze. This feels like my turn. Tears slipped down her cheeks now, unchecked. Lily looked between them, confused but sensing something important. Marissa inhaled slowly. Pride wrestled with need again. Finally, she nodded. Just for tonight, she said. But none of them knew that this small yes would ripple further than a single evening. Daniel's house felt different that night. Emma opened the door before he could unlock it. Cleats in hand and ponytail half falling out. Dad, you're late. Then she saw them. Her eyes moved from Marissa to Lily without hesitation. Hi, Emma said brightly. Do you like dogs? We have one. Just like that, the tension dissolved. Lily grinned. I love dogs. Within minutes, the girls were on the living room floor, introducing stuffed animals and arguing over which Disney movie to watch. Daniel stood in the kitchen with Marissa, the smell of reheated coffee filling the air. You don't have to explain anything you don't want to, he told her gently. She wrapped her hands around the mug he offered. I left an abusive relationship, she said finally. I waited too long. I thought I could fix him. But when he started yelling at Lily, her voice cracked. I packed one bag. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his tone steady. You did the right thing. I don't feel brave, she admitted. I feel terrified. Brave people usually are. Later that night, after the girls had fallen asleep mid-movie, Daniel sat alone on the back porch. The winter air stung his face. He thought about grief, how it had hollowed him out, how he'd spent months simply surviving. Tonight felt different. Purpose had slipped back in quietly, like light through a cracked door. The next morning, he made calls. A friend who managed an office needed part-time help. A neighbor knew of an affordable apartment opening soon. Emma insisted Lily borrow one of her jackets. By noon, possibilities began lining up. Marissa stood in the doorway before leaving for the interview Daniel had arranged. You didn't just feed us, she said. You reminded me that the world isn't entirely cruel.